Hello and welcome back to Nerd Fuel. I'm your semi-sober host Hassel, and today we will be diving into the game Spellbook. It's another one that I picked up from Spiel Essen 2023. It was designed by Phil Walker Harding and published by Space Cowboys. Spellbook is a game where the players are wizards competing in the annual Grand Rite. During this competition, the wizards are trying to learn the most spells and increase the power of their familiars. Once one of the wizards completes her spell book or maxes out the power of their familiar, the game ends and the points are tallied. Now, one of the things, or the big thing that I found interesting about this game is the objective. The goal is for the wizards to empower themselves and their familiar. There's not really any malfeasance towards each other, more than just causing each other to draw or discard their materia, which I'll explain what materia is later. There's no hit points, there's no blasting each other with fireballs or anything like that. It's all about who can be the wizard that's best at learning all their spells. So just as in the last video, we're going to go over the game setup, followed by a brief example of the gameplay, and finally I'll give the game my ratings based on the setup, the rules, the fun, the replay value, and the aesthetics. So let's dive right in. So the first thing the players are going to do, and this is part of the setup, is they're going to choose their familiar. And that's basically just your avatar. It doesn't have any effect on the game. You're not more powerful based on your avatar or anything like that. It's just, that's just what you want your familiar to look like. So you choose your familiar, and then you are dealt 7 cards from one of your decks. Now each player has 3 decks. One's 1 diamond, 2 diamond, 3 diamond. It's really simple. The instructions say you should master each of them one at a time, and then you will create a deck randomly based out of the 3. Now, you will have 7 different colors in your deck, and both players will have the exact same spells or cards are in their deck. It doesn't matter, even if you do the classic mode, once you've learned everything and you're randomly drawing 1 from each color, both players must have the same cards in front, or spells in front of them. So you will have these spells, and just like the instructions recommend, we will be using the 1 diamond deck because we're still learning how to play this game, right? So we have our deck here. We also have a player aid, which guides us through the turn of each game. Now, each turn or each round has 3 turns, morning, midday, and evening. And this, there's certain things you can do depending on the time of the day on that round. And it's all explained on that card. You'll also see this pouch, which is full of materia. And like I said, I'll explain materia. We have an altar, which you can take materia from. And we have this little discard container here, which I have placed in the middle one of our lovely Nerd Fuel decals. I wish the game came that way, but it didn't, so I put it in there myself. Maybe someday. You also will see this little Spellbook token, and all this does is signify who is going first in the game, and that will come into play later on at the end. That is most of the setup, except each player will take 2 materia each. Materia are what we use in this game to learn spells. They come in 7 different colors, and there are 3 different runes that you can find on each of them. Circle, square, and triangle. I'm sure there's a different name for them, but I want to call them circle, square, and triangle for ease of this tutorial. And randomly enough, myself and player 2 both picked the same colors and the same runes. And then on the altar, you will put 5 materia to start with. And that is basically the setup here. So these 7 cards that you have in front of you, these are spells. Now, you don't know these spells. These are just spells that you can learn. They are not spells that you have learned. The point in the game is learning the spells, and you can, once learned, you can use them throughout the game. So, let's get to it. So in the first round, we start with morning. In the morning action, we have 2 options. Take 1 from the altar, or draw 2 from the vortex pouch. Or you can perform a card action or a spell. Now, since we haven't learned any spells, obviously we can't do that. So in the first round, probably even the second round, nobody's going to, unless they got a good draw, nobody's really going to know any spells. So you're going to have to just go with the first option. Take 1 or draw 2. I will, since it's early and I want to get some spells soon, I'm just going to go ahead and draw 2. All right. And I can't do anything else after that. And obviously, player 2 doesn't want to take any from the altar yet either, so this person is also going to draw 2. Now, you cannot have more than 9 materia in your possession at a time. So right now we have 4 each, nothing really to worry about. And morning is over and we move on to midday of this round. So in midday, again, I have 2 options. I can store one of my materia on the familiar board, which will make my familiar more powerful, or I can cast a midday spell. So that's the other thing I forgot to mention earlier. Each of your spells, 2 of them are morning spells, 2 of them are midday spells, 2 of them are evening spells, and 1 of them is an immediate spell. So one that you can use at any time. But we don't know any of them yet. So we are going to have to store one of our materia that we already have on our familiar. And this is kind of tough because I have 4 different colors in front of me right now. So for myself as player 1, I guess I will put away I will store my blue on my familiar and make him just a little bit more powerful. So player 2, it's their turn for midday. Now player 2 has 3 blue. Now, in order to learn a spell, you need 3 materia of the same color as a minimum. I'll get into that here in a little bit. But as we are right now, player 2 has not learned any spells yet, so they cannot use any midday spells. And they choose to put their yellow with the circle rune on their familiar. Now, as you can see in your familiar, you have a total of 16 different spots where you can store materia. And at the end of the game, if you have filled all 16, you will receive 18 victory points. If you have not filled them all up, you will collect the points of the next visible spot. So if my last materia was on 11 and the game ended, then I would get 12 victory points. But we both only have them at 0 now, so if the game were to end right now, which it never would, we would get 1. And that is the end of midday. Now we go to evening. Now evening we have 2 choices. Learn 1 spell or use an evening action card. Or if instant, apply the effect. Oh, apparently, I never noticed this before. The instant can only be done on, I guess, on the evening card action. Okay, didn't know that. So, oh, that's if you learn the spell and it's an instant, you would use it immediately. All right, so when you do these, as soon as you learn it on these gold ones here, it is done immediately during the evening portion of the round. Got it. Okay, cool. See there, just talking through it with you guys, and I figured something out that I didn't realize before. Because when I played this with my wife earlier, neither one of us managed to get this spell before the game was over. So that's kind of cool. All right. So I cannot learn a spell. I have 3 different colors here. There's nothing I can do. Now, if I were to learn a spell, I can only learn it to the... you can only learn each spell once. And there are 3 levels to each spell. So there's the level with 3 materia, 4 materia, or 5 materia. You can only learn it once. Once I've learned it with 3, I can't add a materia and step it up to the 4. Unless I used a spell that would allow me to do that. So you kind of got to choose. Am I going to go ahead and learn this spell now, or am I going to wait a little bit and learn that spell at a little bit of a stronger level? But I can't do either because I do not have 3 of the same color. Now, just for the game's sake, let's say I had 2 greens and 3 squares of different colors. Now, if you look on the game turn player aid here, it tells you when you're learning a spell, 3 identical runes will equal 1 wild. 1. So you need 3 of them for 1. So what I could do if I needed to learn this green spell here, that would allow me to swap 1 with the altar from my pool. I could put 1 green materia, 2 green materia, and these 3 materia here are all squares, square runes. So those 3 square runes can be wild, a wild 1. So I could use those to be 1 green. So that would give me a total of 3 green, and I could learn this green spell at its lowest level. Unfortunately for me, though, on my turn, I don't have either of those situations. So I have to forego my evening turn, and it goes to player 2. So player 2 has 3 blue materia, and player 2 decides I am going to learn this spell now on the blue spell. For the lowest level of it, there's no spell. You cannot perform anything with that spell. It's only on the blue one. But if you have that learned, you'll still get 4 victory points if you have it learned to the lowest value. And they're thinking ahead, hey, you know what? I need those victory points. So they will put 1 of their materia on the lowest level of that spell. They're like, I'm going to get an early lead, and they will discard into the bin their other 2 blue. And that is the end of the round. So we go to the altar now that we have completed all 3 phases of the first day. We go to the altar. The altar has 5. So when you refill the altar, if we had taken some off of this, 1 or 2, we would refill this back up to 5. 5 is when it's full. But we didn't take anything from it, so we will add 1 to it. And that will give us 6. Now, once you get to 10, if we hit 10 at the end of the turn or the round, we will discard all 10 and put 5 more there. but not until you get to 10. So right now we are at 6, and we start over with a new day. Now, let's see. That is a midday spell. So we're going to advance a little bit. Just because there's no point in me just playing through this for an hour until we get to everything. Let's say, for example, I have later on in the game, I have learned, okay, let's say I have learned the number 3 here, the third highest on the purification spells, which allows me to swap 3 with the altar. When it would come around to my turn on the midday, instead of storing 1 on my familiar board, I would swap. I could swap 3 with the altar. So it wouldn't do me any good right now because the altar doesn't have 3 of the same color or 4 of the same color. But I wouldn't do that, but I would have that option because that spell is maxed out. Also on these, which one was it? Oh, on the time travel spell, each level just has a different shape of rune. You can discard one of those shapes to increase another spell by 1 level. So if I had this green spell, the purification spell at level 2, and let's say I had this time travel spell to its 3rd level, and I discarded one of my square runes, I would be able to move my purification spell up to its 3rd level. So once one of the wizards has learned all 7 of their spells, or if the you have stored enough in your familiar till you hit 16, whichever happens first. If a player learns all 7 or their familiar is powered up to 16, then that is an end of game trigger, and both players will now, once both players have had an equal number of turns, which is why the little spellbook marker is important, all the points will be tallied. Now you will get points for the spells you've learned at their significant levels, and also, as I described before, how powerful your familiar is. So you'll tally those up, and that will be the winner of the game, whoever has the highest number of points. So that's it. That's the whole spiel of the game. You learn your spells, you get the highest number of points, you power up your familiar. Your familiars don't really do anything, and that's it. That's the end of it. Not terrible, but there's not really a whole lot to it. That's basically it. When myself and my wife played it with the first level of the cards, it seemed a bit slow. It took us probably about 3. We got lucky playing it here for this demonstration to where the second player had the 3 blues. But when me and my wife played it, we were like 3 or 4 rounds into it, 5 rounds into it, before anybody had the right materia to learn even 1 spell. So it was a bit of a slow start to this game. And we ended up winning. My wife ended up winning because she had learned a couple more spells, and she was also the first to max out her familiar, which gave her quite a few points. Mine was only at like 12 points or something, and she got her 18 points for that, so she kicked my butt. But that also shows the fact that it only took us about 20 minutes to play, so the fact that she was able to get all her materia into the familiar that fast shows how long it took us to be able to learn any spells. I'm sure if we played it a few more times, it wouldn't have that. It wouldn't play out exactly the same time each time. We still need to go back and play it with the other decks also, but it just seemed to be a bit drawn out, and we weren't doing anything except for just drawing materia and every midday adding something to our familiar. But we will continue to play. We'll play it a few more times, and I'll come back into the comments here and update if anything changes. But let's get to the ratings right now. Setup is a 10 out of 10. Super easy. It takes like a minute to set this game up. It's super easy. It's really nothing. Rules, 8 out of 10. Really clear. Only had to like review them a couple times while we were playing along on our first playthrough. There was really nothing confusing, so it's pretty easy. So give that an 8 out of 10. 7 out of 10 for fun. I'm not saying it's not fun. It's fun. It's not the most fun game I've ever played. This is one of those games, me and my buddies, we would play this game first just to get the gears turning, you know, before we played our other games. We always have games like this. We have like this, games similar to this. Small World is one, a few others. These games you don't really have to think. You can just go through. They're pretty quick. They're only about 20 minutes long. And it just kind of gets things going, gets everybody in the mood before we move on to bigger, more complex games. So we'll give that a 7 out of 10. Replay value, I give it an 8 out of 10. We've got, like I said, we've got to try it with the rest of the decks and then try the classic mode and see how it goes. So we already know we're playing it, you know, a few more times. And also, you know, we're not always going to be maybe me and my wife just draw really crappy out of here, and that's why it kind of went badly for us, but we're going to try it again. The aesthetics, I give it an 8 out of 10. It's kind of cool. I mean, there's not a lot to it, but, you know, you've got your little box here in the bag, and I really like these, the materia with the runes. These are like a really hard resin, I guess, epoxy resin. Or a hard plastic, but they're nice. It's a good quality. Everything is really good quality on this game. I really like it. I didn't really notice any single-use plastics except for the cellophane that covered the cards. And if it's real cellophane, well, that's not plastic. That's plant material. So that's pretty cool. So yes, so it definitely seems to be resourceful. And the aesthetics are great. I really love the artwork on this thing. Whoever it was they hired, I guess I could go through the book and see who it was, but the artwork is really nice. I really like the look of all of the different familiars on here. But yeah, aesthetics 8 out of 10. That gives us a 41 out of 50 total. That's an 82%. So this game gets a B. So it's not bad. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about this game. It could be fun, but it could do a little bit better. It just needs to speed up a little bit in the beginning, but that's about it. That's basically all I got for this here. It's a good game. Check it out. It's not very expensive. I don't remember what I paid for it at Spiel Essen, but it wasn't anything outrageous at all. Highly recommend it. Get out there, check it out, try it for yourselves. Shoot me a comment on what you think of the game. If I'm wrong, if I missed something, if I just fouled things up and it would have been a lot more fun for me, let me know. I'm always open to criticism. So, also, please check out our Patreon. I would really like that. At least give it a look. There's a few benefits in there if you do join. Also, give a like and a subscribe. Please subscribe to this thing. This is only our second video. I've got enough games for like years of content for this channel. So just give it a like, give it a subscribe. I would really like to keep doing this stuff for you guys. This is a lot of fun. Recently retired. My wife is loving it that I have something to do right now. So hit me up. I'd like to give thanks to all the people who shot out DMs to me and really helped me out with tips on editing and the flow of these videos, camera placement, framing, things like that. Got a lot of help from a lot of people. That was really awesome. If any of you guys have any suggestions, shoot them my way. I'm pretty new at this. Nobody's going to hurt my feelings. I promise. It's great. Love you guys. Thank you for coming to my channel. And I'll see you next week with another game. Haven't decided what it is yet, but it's going to be good. All right.